This video is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Hey guys, Big Paul here today, and I am going to talk about my experiences with Primobolan, methenolone, and enthates. I really didn't use Primobolan until the last couple years, and I'm going to tell you why it's slowly becoming my favorite and go-to anabolic. We are going to dig into all that in just 1 second. All right, so Primo. What do I think about Primo? I just started using Primo in the last 2 years, probably a year and a half, something like that. I never really used it before. One, because I'd heard it was weak. It had this reputation for being weak. I don't know where the fuck that came from. I think bros mistake lack of side effects for a compound being weak. Primobolan is, for the most part, side effect free. It's very smooth. You don't really notice that you're on it. The only thing that I have noticed when I do run Primobolan is that it does make my blood pressure creep up a tad. All DHT derivatives seem to do that to me. They seem to make my blood pressure creep up. But, it's not significant, and usually it settles down after a few weeks. But Primobolan, when I was younger and didn't know better about anabolics, had this reputation for just being weak and a waste of time. Guys were like, don't waste your time with that shit. So I didn't. And it was expensive, and why would I waste my money on something that's expensive and weak? That was sort of my philosophy when I was younger. And that was before I knew any better. And like I said, bros mistake side effects for effects, so they automatically say tren is better because you can feel tren. But when you actually look at the numbers on stuff, most compounds, anabolic compounds, accrete muscle protein synthesis, new muscle tissue at relatively similar rates. So that's not to say that they don't have secondary attributes that are important as well, such as force motivation and body effects on body composition and other things. So I'm not discounting those other effects, but in the off season when we're purely looking at size, and now that I've gotten older, my philosophy has evolved to why not run the stuff that has the least amount of side effects and will generate new muscle tissue, accrete muscle protein. Or generate muscle protein synthesis. So why would we waste our time with something like tren that's pretty harsh in the off season when we don't have to? There's no specific advantage for running tren in the off season, I don't think, over running other safer compounds. Now, with Primobolan, a constant worry, and I will tell you, and it is a valid concern, is fake Primobolan. There's a lot of fake Primobolan from UGLs. Now, generally, fake Primobolan, at least the stuff that I have seen, or at least from what I've heard, is typically Masteron. Because most people can't tell the difference between Masteron and Primobolan. And they are very similar. They are cousins. If you look at the anabolic tree, they are very similar in characteristics. They both are DHT derivatives. If you look at them molecularly, they're not that much different. Although it does seem to be that Primobolan is a bit stronger. It's just been my experience. I love Primobolan. I now think that I would probably place Primobolan as my favorite anabolic. It used to be nandrolone, and I've had some issues with nandrolone lately where nandrolone has caused me to get some anxiety. I still like nandrolone for size, strength. It makes you puffy. But the thing with Primobolan is you get nice, slow, steady, fat-free, water-free, bloat-free gains. And it also, I'm a heavy estrogen converter, and I have found that people that are heavy estrogen converters tend to do better as their second compound being a DHT derivative versus running a 19-nor. Guys that tend to be skinny dudes, ectomorphs seem to do better with 19 Nords as their secondary compound choice. That's just what I've seen. I don't have any science to back that up, but that's just what I've seen. So Primobolan does have some effects on suppressing estrogen. You'll see people say that studies show that it and I've even talked about it in the past where you can't really find any good information that says that it does. But when you look at blood work, it's clear when you look at blood work when people are running Primobolan that it does suppress estrogen. So even though there's not really a lot of clinical data that backs that up, or at least not that I've seen, if somebody can point me to a study that shows that, feel free to do so. I would love to see it. But in the real world, seeing blood work and what happens, Primobolan definitely lowers estrogen. Now, when it comes to getting real Primobolan, I have run UGL Primobolan and I have run the Bear Primo. Now, it's real Primobolan, I think it is the brand name. But I have run the real Primobolan. I did on my contest prep this year, and it could be just in my head, but I definitely noticed a difference running the real Primobolan. It is expensive as fuck. I will forewarn you, it is expensive as fuck. Now, that difference could be just dosing. If the compound's either real or it's not. It's binary. That's the thing that always drives me nuts when people talk about UGL gear versus pharma gear. Now, that's not to say that the oil that they put it in or the solvents they use is better. Usually, the main difference that's going to be between UGL gear and a pharma grade is going to be a higher quality carrier oil. They typically use a lot of UGLs use a lot more solvents in their gear to keep them from crashing, so they hurt like fuck. And also the dosing that they have the equipment in the factory to measure and make sure the dosing is accurate, whereas in the UGL they're probably just eyeballing shit. You don't know what you're getting. So the dosing is going to be more accurate. So who really knows if that 200 milligram Primobolan that you get from your UGL is really 200 milligrams? It might be 100 milligrams. It might be 50. It might be even Masteron. So how do you know if Primobolan is real? You can get a roid test kit and test it. I will say I've used these roid test kits, and the fucking colors on them are almost impossible to tell sometimes. You can buy a real Bear Primobolan. You could do that. But one of the signs and this is not 100% certainty, but one of the signs that I've noticed with real Primo kicks like a motherfucker as far as post-injection pain goes. It hurts like fuck. Real Primobolan hurts. It's because it is a giant molecule. The molecular weight of Primobolan, I think, is like 2.5 times that of testosterone. So that's why it's typically dosed at 100 milligrams per milliliter. So to keep it from crashing and to cut down on injection pain. That's why they at least I assume that's why they dose it that way. But I do love Primobolan. Primobolan is probably my favorite anabolic. And honestly, kind of my ideal growth cycle, if you can tolerate it, is test Primobolan and a little bit of nandrolone together. If you run all three of those together and you can't get big, something seriously is fucking wrong. So your diet's fucked up, or you just have shitty genetics, or you got bunk gear. So that's my ultimate size stack. Like I said though, I'm staying away from the nandrolone this off season because I did have some anxiety and had a couple panic attacks with it in my post-contest rebound. But I don't know, could have just been a thing. I never had issues before, but this year I did. So I don't know if it was something else going on or what the deal was, but I'm staying away from it moving forward. But anyway, Primobolan, I would say, is right there at the top. It's probably my favorite anabolic right now. It's smooth, easy on you, especially for an old guy who's looking to protect your health. You can run Primobolan at fairly high doses without much of a health consequence. There's always a cost. There's a cost versus benefit ratio with every gear that you take. Something like Anadrol would be a high cost, high benefit. Tren would be a high cost, high benefit, as far as health cost versus benefit. So things like that you want to run in limited runs. There's low health cost, moderate benefit, which would be something like Primobolan. So you can get away with more. So by the fact that you can probably run higher doses than you could the other more dangerous compounds and have less health risk, you'd probably get more out of it. But that's my 2 cents on it. Anyway, if you have your thoughts, your experiences with Primobolan, you would like to share them, put them in the comment section below. I'll do my best to respond to each and every one of you. Thanks for watching. For coaching or consultations, head over to www.anabolicbodybuilding.com to book your spot today. I can help you with optimizing hormones, fat loss, muscle gain, physique, athletic performance, nutrition, and health. For more information, shoot me an email at bigp3rd@gmail.com.